What's up, everyone? Aaron Nagler here, PackersNews.com, live on Facebook late Monday afternoon. The Packers have released fourth quarterback Joe Callahan, erstwhile of the practice squad the last 2 years. Clearly moving on from a guy who made the most of what he could out of D3 Wesley. Just thought I'd jump on here and get your thoughts on the draft with a little time, a little space removed from the actual proceedings. People can be emotional immediately after, but thought I'd see what's on your minds. Packer fans everywhere. Donnie from Kentucky, what's up, man? We need to find a rusher one way or another. David, I think they will be looking for them on their roster. I think the likes of Reggie Gilbert and Vince Beagle will be counted on to improve and add something to what they already have. Jerry, yeah, I got a billion voicemails. Sorry if you couldn't get through. My voice box probably got full. Salt Lake City, what's up, man? North Hudson, hi, Mike. Joe gives Gutekunst an A+. That's a bold call. If you haven't checked it out, make sure you go to PackersNews.com for my roundup of all the draft grades given out by all the draft gurus around the web. I put that up this afternoon. For the most part, very complimentary from the draft industrial complex. But as anyone who has followed me for any length of time knows, I think draft grades are complete folly. The only true draft grade you can give a class is incomplete until you see how things play out. But that's just me. Any chance Cobb doesn't make the squad even with all the wide receivers drafted? You know, I won't completely dismiss the idea because of his salary, but I tend to think the chances are minimal. Yes, a few of them could shine and shock in training camp, but a number of rookies catching on in this system and being able to contribute right away at the wide receiver position, which is traditionally tough, especially in McCarthy's offense, I think it's a long shot. Not to mention the fact that a lot of these guys are big perimeter receivers, probably hoping that maybe one of those guys sticks as a guy opposite Devontae Adams. I don't see anybody that's a slot type that could threaten, Cobb's playing time there. Now, perhaps this lets them use Montgomery a little bit more in the slot. And maybe if he comes to the fore, maybe they're looking at the numbers, they want to save some salary, maybe. And that's a big maybe. They move on from Cobb. But I would be absolutely shocked if they did so. I think they're counting on Cobb to be a big contributor in 2018. Mike, is the Dez talk dead? Not here on Facebook, darn it. No, I'm kidding. I wouldn't say completely. Again, I think they'll bring in, obviously they'll have the rookie minicamp this weekend, and then they'll have the OTAs and regular minicamp. You know, if they get those guys on the field and they think, you know what, we don't really have an immediate contributor in the bunch, we don't see the makings of one, I wouldn't rule out a possible call to Dez Bryant. But again, I do think that as well is a bit of a long shot at this point. Guessing they think Beagle is going to come alive this year? I don't think there's any doubt. I don't think they're ever going to expect Vince Beagle to come and be the second coming of Rodney Harrison or anything. But I do think, they look at a guy who didn't have an offseason, who hurt himself literally on the very first professional practice he ever had. And that wiped out his entire offseason. So I think they're going to look at Beagle, Gilbert, Odom even, and say, these are guys that we want to bring along and develop, and they're going to augment what we've got in Clay Matthews and Nick Perry. And again, maybe it's a fool's errand, but I don't doubt they're also hoping that Nick Perry can stay on the field a little bit more. Obviously, he played well last year when he was on the field, but as anyone who's followed the Packers for any length of time knows, Nick Perry being on the field happens not nearly as much as Nick Perry being off the field. Are all these new receivers a threat to Allison's job? Now there, I think you're maybe cooking with gas. Clearly, Allison's got the leg up because he knows the system has a really good chemistry with Rodgers. Rodgers loves throwing to the guy, so that's going to help him. But if one or two of these guys catch on quick and show what Allison showed his rookie year, I wouldn't be surprised for them if I saw them move on at that position, because they are, when it comes to body type, they're very similar to Allison, big, long guys. Except a lot of these guys have some blazing speed to add to the mix. So, I think Allison should be a little bit more worried than Cobb. Mayock is the best draft analyst that should get him into the NFL Hall of Fame. Andrew, yeah, Mike's good. Mike knows what he's doing. St. Brown looks like Lofton. He's an impressive specimen. There's no doubt about it. You'd like to see a little bit more consistency, and you'd like to see him maybe strengthen up a little bit, but that's true of most rookie wide receivers. Bringing a punter in that high was an odd strategy. I keep saying it. Obviously, it's a hot-button topic because it was an unusual pick, but, they clearly like the upside. If he comes out and, punts at an all-pro or even a Pro Bowl level, I don't think anybody cares. They wanted the guy. They got him. They wanted to, they say they wanted to add competition for Vogel. I mean, really, they want this Scott kid to go take the job. And that's obvious from where they drafted him. But, you just watch him punt, you see why they were attracted. I mean, that kid has got a leg for days, and he's a sound holder, which already puts him above Vogel. So we'll see. We'll see how it plays out. In hindsight, it may look brilliant, or it may look foolish. Drafting 3 wide receivers and no pass rushers, you got to remember, they're playing the board that is dealt to them. They can't create pass rushers out of thin air, and you don't want them just reaching for a pass rusher because they, quote, need one. It's all well and good to say, we need this, but if the prospect isn't there, and I know people are going to point at, certain prospects that maybe they liked pre-draft and, were talked up by analysts or whatever, but they're not following all that. They're following their own board and their own scouting. Their scouting grades. And this coming into this draft, you ask most people in the league, they would tell you it was deep in corners and deep in wide receivers. Well, that's what the Packers went out and got. They got a bunch of corners and a bunch of wide receivers. They didn't reach for anything, except maybe a punter in the 5th. But for the most part, 3 wide receiver strategy, I don't think it was a case of they went into the draft going, we have to get more wide receivers. I think they would have liked to have gotten 1 or 2, but the way the board played out, they grabbed 3 of them, and I think, it's going to be a fun competition to watch in camp. Does Jackson start over Tramon Williams in week 1? It's tough. I think he's got a long road to beat out Tramon. Tramon knows the system, is a wily vet, and is coming off a year where he played at an extremely high level. Now, that said, I don't think it's impossible. Jackson clearly was extremely productive last year in college. Big guy who certainly has a knack for the football. But I think Tremon's got the leg up there, and a significant one. We had a lot of picks. I like the punter and the long snapper. The long snapper I have no problem with. I have people making something about the long snapper pick. I have no idea what they're talking about because they had 3 7th-round picks. 7th-round picks are almost throwaways. Not quite, but almost just throwaway picks. Basically after the 4th round, you're just rolling dice. So yeah, they wanted to make sure they got a long snapper. They got a long snapper. That's fine. I agree with the premise of your comment. They had a ton of. I remember going into day 3, I thought there's no way they're going to make all 8 picks, and they made all 8 picks, and 2 of them were specialists. They wanted to improve their football team on special teams, and that's what they try to do. I'm going to kill them for that. A lot of ESB hype. What about Jamon Moore? Yeah, I like Moore. I think it's funny. It depends on who you talk to. I mean, I look at the tape and I like what I see, but again, you see tape of college players playing against other college players. It very rarely tells you. But the reason these scouts make so much money and are so good at what they do, or not, is because they're able to project. And my ability to project from college to pros against pro talent is always suspect. Yeah, I like what I see, but until I see these guys on a football field and against NFL level competition, the jury's out. Watch any tape on the punter yet? I've only seen him destroy a couple balls. I mean, he's got a leg. There's no doubt about that. I think they need to bring in a free agent tight end. I wouldn't, I would think they're open to the possibility. I think they'll, like I said before, I think they'll bring everybody in. They'll have the rookie camp, and then they'll convene for OTAs. I think they'll look at what they've got, see if Emmanuel Byrd is coming along. But I don't doubt for a second that they'll be looking in free agency, scouting waiver wires to see if there's a way to add to that position. I know they brought at least one in as an undrafted free agent, maybe more. But yeah, I don't think they're done trying at that position. Alexander going to win the punt returning job? I would think so. I think he's much more explosive than Trevor Davis. Do you see Hundley making the squad this year? No. I think Kaiser beats him out. That's just a guess sitting here in late April. Antonio Gates, if he gets cut? I don't see it, Sam. They already got 2 older tight ends on the roster. Favorite pick of the draft? The last one, because it meant I was done. I don't know. I don't know anything about these guys until they step on a football field. And I know it's funny because you spend all this time researching these guys and watching the tape and etc. But, you know, as much work as I could ever put into the draft, I don't put in nearly as much as, you know, Brian Gutekunst and his staff do. So I want to see what they saw in these guys and see them on the field against NFL football players. And that's when you start to get an idea of what they got. We aren't not going to win this year because we didn't have enough wideouts. Astute. What are your thoughts on Donnerson? Talk about tape. It's hard to find tape of this kid, but intriguing. And I talked to 2 scouts, was it Sunday night, who actually really liked that pick because they thought he could be a bit of a sleeper. He's got an explosive first step. There's no doubt about that. But, I mean, outside of that, I mean, Jarrell Worthy had an explosive first step in college. And you see all the good that did him. But, yeah, I mean, again, we're talking about, you know, late round pick. It's a bit of a flyer. Just bring him into camp, see what he's got. Trade for Cook. That would be funny, right? You know, guys, you know they signed Jimmy Grant, right? Okay, just making sure. Could Burks be considered on the edge? I don't think they're going to go that route. Wojciechowski basically said right off the bat that he's gonna play inside. I don't doubt they'll give him some snaps outside, but I think initially, definitely, they're going to try him. He's going to be strictly inside in nickel and dime. I hope House is gone in all caps. Duly noted. I think this draft probably put you on the road that you desire. Deep down, are you glad they didn't draft Davenport? I have no feelings whatsoever about what if they would have or wouldn't have drafted Davenport. I thought it was very interesting the Saints gave up a first-round pick next year to jump up and get him. I hope Callahan stole all of Hundley's gum on his way out. Wow. You guys. Shade. Let's see. Will Davis and House be gone? I would tend to think chances are good. Why does it seem everyone is forgetting about Vince Beagle? I don't think they are. Someone asked about him at the beginning of the video. I don't think anyone's forgotten about Vince Beagle. I just think people don't know what the Packers have there, and I'm not sure the Packers know what the Packers have there. You know, obviously they'll be counting on him. Obviously they're hoping for development there, but a hope is not a plan, as someone once said. Could Burks start with Martinez at inside linebacker? It's a possibility. Let's see. Davenport went 14 even though we traded down. That's correct. Goodson should be gone over House. PJ, I agree. I like the draft, just waiting to see RT bolstered a little. Yeah, right tackle is interesting. I mean, the fact that the only offensive lineman they got in Goodson was a guy that projects inside, or what am I saying? It's a guy who projects inside. You know, that's disconcerting if you're looking at right tackle because you know Brian Bulaga can't stay on the field and probably won't be ready for the start of the year. Maybe they're counting on Jason Spriggs making a miraculous recovery and playing at a higher level than he ever has in the NFL up to this point. But that's bold. Let's see. Hey, Aaron, any news on when Rodgers will get his extension? Nothing as of late. I still think they're waiting to watch what happens with Matt Ryan and the Falcons. Once Ryan signs his deal, I think things will start in earnest with Rodgers and the Packers. I've been saying it all offseason. I wouldn't expect anything until the start of, like just before the start of camp. That's my hunch. That is just a guess. Were you surprised they passed on James? You're talking about Derwin James, I imagine. Not really. I mean, the fact that they had Tremaine Edmonds and Derwin James, 2 guys they had in the building on visits, they passed on both of them. You know, makes me think that they didn't think either one was premier. And they knew they could get back up if they dropped down. That's my hunch anyway, because see, everyone knew Seattle wanted picks. Obviously, John Schneider and Gutekunst go way back. So I think he knew by dropping down and getting that first round selection, he knew he could get back up if he needed to. If he really had wanted James, if he was really sold on him being a difference maker, he would have taken him. The fact that he didn't lets you know he didn't value him that highly. I think he would have helped the Packers. There's no doubt about that. A big box safety, though, so they've kind of got that in James Jones, although I think Derwin James projects to be a much better player. But yeah, again, the morning of the draft, I said, don't be surprised if they trade down, and then they traded down. It's always something. It's always fun. It's always unexpected. That's why we watch. Let's see. St. Brown has some attitude issues and some external issues. Well, I think this whole thing about his dad and the LeVar Ball comparisons are a tad much. I mean, did any of you know about any of that prior to the draft or even just leading up to the draft? I would suspect most people didn't. I'm sure some people saw the HBO special and things like that, but this kid is just living his life trying to make an NFL roster at this point. Let's give him the benefit of the doubt and let's let his actions speak to what kind of kid he is and what baggage or non-baggage he may have. If he doesn't bring it with him and it doesn't show up in his play or in the locker room, who cares what happens with his family? That's my 2 cents anyway. Does the move from 14 to 18 and another number 1 next year solidify this as an A+ draft? Again, I look at the video from before, rewind it after I'm done about my thoughts on draft grades. But I will say, getting that 1 next year is big. If for no other reason, they could potentially package it with their other number 1 and get up and get a true difference maker if they so choose. They got a lot of capital, a lot of ammo for next year. That certainly helps. I'm thinking Dez is a hard no. I wouldn't say a hard no. I still think it's a possibility, although a much lesser possibility now. No doubt about that. Couldn't they have signed the long snapper as an undrafted free agent? Maybe. You don't know. You never know what the other teams are going to do. It's the 7th round. It's one of 3 7th-round picks. You want to make sure you get the guy? Get the guy. Does Jari Evans come back? Good question, Brian. I suspect no, but maybe they get to camp and they take a look at what they've got and they don't like it. Maybe they give him a call. My hunch is they don't, though. Raji is our 3rd down scat back. Andrew, thank you for closing it out. All right, everybody. Thanks so much. I'm sorry if I couldn't get to your question. They do come by rather fast, but make sure you're checking PackersNews.com for all the latest. We got everything from the draft, Callahan's release, and any other thing you want to know about the Green Bay Packers. It's all up there. Make sure you check it out. Until tomorrow, you guys have a great night.